Hey, this is Matt once again. What about another video? This is the paid request, this time for David. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, reviews, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And actually, I just realized I did not bring the DVD because I have this film on DVD. So bear with me on that. I'll just leave this in because why not? It's right over here. I know the audio is out of it, so bear with me. I just figured I'll just leave this in because this is not an official high production quality assessment. But a long while ago, a very nice person sent me this. This is a DVD from overseas and has trailers and stuff. Now, this was never on DVD in the US, but I know that Vendor Syndrome just released a pre-order where you could get this film on Blu-ray, I think 4K as well. Like, it's a whole pack. It's $45. Now, I enjoy this film. I do like the movie. I would be curious to see the features, the interviews. There's no Chuck Norris, because he never does interviews. I don't know why. I don't believe that it's because Chuck Norris, it was never asked. I don't buy that anymore. I know Chuck has said that once or twice, but there's too many of these releases now where I guarantee you someone asked him. Because in the interviews, they got Aaron Norris, they got Julian Nixon Soul, they got other people involved on the special features. Aaron Norris is doing a commentary. But think of all the releases. I mean, Tino Lorber, they've released some Chuck Norris stuff. Shout Factory, I think released Invasion USA, and they mentioned Chuck Norris said no. Now this film, if they're able to ask Aaron Norris, I guarantee you they would ask Chuck Norris. And he just said no. So I don't know why Chuck doesn't want to talk about his films. I don't know why he doesn't want to be interviewed about his films. I mean, that's his choice. But again, I don't get it. But like I said, I'd be curious to get that release. But I'm not paying $45. Call me cheapskate all you want. It's just movies are getting too expensive for me. And I am a cheapskate. And it's like, I do like the movie. Is it in my top 10 Chuck Norris films? No. My favorite is File Walker. I mean, I would say I like Missing Action Trilogy more. I would say I like Delta Force more. Silent Rage more. Hero and the Terror more. There's films I like more, but this is a good, family, in the realm of Karate Kid type of a flick. That's really what it is. It's kind of their version of the Karate Kid. Where Jonathan Brandis, who sadly ended his life way too young, way too soon. He was in the 1990s Stephen King's It miniseries. He was on a TV show, Sequest, I believe, with Roy Scheider, which I never watched the show. Anyway, he is a guy, he's a kid who daydreams a lot in school. And most of the time he daydreams of being the sidekick to Chuck Norris. Other people in the cast you'd recognize, Mako, which I don't know you can see him. Nah, it's too blurry. Mako, who is the wizard in Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer with Arnold. He was the voice of Splinter in the 2007 CGI Ninja Turtle movie. He was the uncle of the Zuko character on the Avatar The Last Airbender cartoon show. He's been in a lot of stuff. He was in The Perfect Weapon with Jeff Speakman. He plays the guy who is teaching Brandis martial arts. So I guess you'd kind of say almost a Paprika type of character. Julian Nixon Soul, who I remember from Rambo First Blood Part 2, was Ko, who tells Rambo, "You're not expendable." She plays a teacher who's trying to help Jonathan Brandis out, and it's her uncle who is Mako, who becomes Brandis' teacher. Bo Bridges, the brother of Jeff Bridges, he plays the dad. I mean, the dad character isn't much. I mean, he pops up every once in a while, but you don't really get much of a connection between the two. I mean, Bo Bridges has a couple little flirty, romantic scenes with Julia's character. But like I say, they don't really feature a lot with the dad bonding with the son and learning to understand the son. It doesn't really go much into those details. Whether that's a good or bad thing, that's up to you. Other people, Richard Mole from Night Court and the 80s film House, he's in it as a gym teacher. He's in it for a little bit. The bad guy is Joe Piscopo, who kind of the Kreese, Karate Kid, kind of that type of character who runs a karate dojo. And Joe Piscopo, he is chewing the scenery, he's chewing the doors, he's chewing the windows, he's chewing the floor, he's chewing everything up. He is chewing every bit of scenery, greenery, ceiling fans, lunch pail. He's anything around it, he's eating up with Folgers in his cup, like Butterfinger buttercups. Joe Piscopo is very goofy and silly, but man, he's pretty fun in that manner. And I mentioned Karate Kid. I would say this is a bit of a goofier version because of like Joe Piscopo and his over the top but fun performance. The Daydreams are pretty, almost a little bit of Surf Ninjas, Three Ninjas type of comedy in that era. That's the thing, it's kind of like Karate Kid skeleton, but the Flash is a bit of Three Ninjas, Surf Ninjas goofiness to it. And I just see a lot of people grow up with this kind of film. I had seen this every once in a while. I did not watch as much as other Chuck Norris movies. Like I said, my favorite is Firewalker. And I'm looking at his filmography there. I mean, like I said, Sound Rage and the Missing Action films. Lone Wolf McQuade. Invasion USA, that's a favorite of mine. That'd definitely be in my top 5 Chuck Norris films. Until Rostov, it's time to die. I probably even as a kid I would watch this and go, okay, it's a bit, even though I was a kid, it's a bit too kid for me. Let me go watch Invasion USA again. But I still enjoyed it, and even watch it again. Some people might not get into some of the more lighthearted, humorous moments. Some people may say it's an ego project for Chuck because how much Jonathan Brandis idolizes Chuck, and it's directed by his brother Aaron Norris. Now, Chuck Norris had 2 brothers. One passed away in Vietnam. The other is Aaron Norris, who worked behind the scenes in Chuck Norris movies, but then became a director around the time of Braddock Missing Action 3, which that's a fun one. I rewatched that again thanks to a request a few months ago, and that was much better than I remember. I'm trying to think. Pretty much after that, that was around the time Cannon Films were getting to the last legs, and really, after that, seemed like the only director Chuck would work with is his brother Aaron. Now, maybe that's because it's his brother, so Chuck was given a bit more freedom to do what they want to do. But just after that, Aaron Norris did Delta Force 2, this movie, Hellbound, was literally became one of the last Cannon films. I think he even worked a bit on Walker Texas Ranger. Again, maybe because that garnered more control. Again, this is an overseas DVD, and I think it was Till from Germany who sent this to me, I believe. And if I'm wrong, I apologize, but yeah, Till from Germany was a guy that would send me some of the most insane best packages I've ever got in my life. And anytime you got a package from Till, it was always a momentous occasion. Because it was just, these movies are not on DVD in the US, but there's Gleam in the Tube on DVD overseas and all this other stuff. And I still have a region-free DVD player. I still have that. So, That was always just so cool. And also, I have a region-free Blu-ray player, so it can play, DVDs and other stuff and Blu-rays and stuff. So it was always. I hope Till's doing well. I'm not saying that just. I hope he gives me another package. I had no way to contact the guy, and if you ever see this, man, I just hope you're doing well. Just for the kindness you showed me those years ago. Thank you, man. I hope he's doing okay. But the film itself, I think part of the appeal for me is I could see myself as the Jonathan Brandis character when I was a kid. Now, the daydreams I had was not as deep, where I could not relate reality with fantasy. And that's the thing, is that it got to a point I'm like, this kid might need psychiatric help. Like, he's reacting like people would in, Vietnam movies where the soldier has PTSD and he's covering, he thinks he's being attacked, and it's like there's something up. It seems a lot deeper than just daydreams. It just seems like, oh, this kid really does need help. So not as that far, but the whole daydream, imagine you're in an action movie. I would do that stuff when I was a kid. And granted, I never imagined myself as a sidekick. I would imagine myself as the hero, and you're thinking over here and there's a park, or if you're with your parents. And when I was a kid, it takes like 40 minutes to get to a good town, 50 minutes to a town with stuff to shop. So I would look out, I would just imagine all these scenarios. This is before cell phones, this is before all this stuff that you just escape into. So use my imagination to create these elements of, oh, well, what if that was a movie, and if that was that, and I was doing this, and this was doing this, and so I can relate to that, I can appreciate that. I think other people can as well. I think that's part of the appeal the site has got as a cult following. Plus, being a fan of Chuck Norris, no, Chuck Norris is not Al Pacino or James Woods in terms of acting, but he had the presence and he had the star it factor that made him a star. He had the right look, his martial arts ability, his steely graze, not glaze, and gaze, not even graze, what the hell, steely gaze, Gaze, by the way, in case people misinterpret Gaze, where you look at someone. And the fantasies he would get into, these daydreams, they were obviously inspired by Chuck's movies. Whether it be Missing in Action, Chuck coming out of the water with a machine gun, and then he comes out of the water. But of course, this is a kids' film, so it wasn't people getting killed. It was people getting explosions, but then they fly up and they're stuck in the tree. Because it is meant to be a kids' film. Granted, some of us as kids, that's not how we daydream. We daydreamed in much more violent ways. Because we loved Rambo and Terminator and all this stuff. But again, I understand doing that for this type of film. Because if the kid was daydreaming, it's like, oh no, you don't shoot up the school. That's how people would look at it on an outsider perspective. I'm not saying that's the case, but so I get why they did it in this fashion. I thought Jonathan Brandis was a pretty good younger actor. I thought he did fine. I mean, it's not as emotionally connective as maybe the first two Karate Kid films, but I thought he did it well as a kid who's got asthma and doing the best that he can. You tell his dad means well, but doesn't pay the most attention to him. They lost the mom a long time ago. And the other fantasies, I mean, one's on the hitman. I mean, Chuck even has the long hair and the shotgun like the hitman. And that might have been another Aaron Norris movie as well that he directed. I can't remember. Who directed him. It might have been Aaron Norris. There's a one bit that's a western. The first bit, I kind of laugh. It was a ninja movie where Chuck Norris is in the suit. I laugh because I wonder if they did that because Chuck was first approached for American Ninja, and he said I didn't want to do it because I didn't want it to cover my face. So then this dream scene or daydream is Chuck covering his face. Now, of course, when the face is covered, who knows how much of that is Chuck? Because the face is covered. You don't know. Chuck could have put his lines in or a few up close shots. It could be another. I don't know. Maybe the commentary will showcase that. But again, as much as I like the film, to pay $45 plus the amount of money for shipping to be over 50, I'm such a penny pincher, as they call that. I can't spend 50 some dollars unless it's I love to death type of movie. But again, I have the DVD. I have a region-free DVD player. Picture quality looks pretty good on this DVD. So I'm fine with this. It's nice to see Julia Nixon-Soul, since Rambo for Split Part 2 is one of my personal favorites. I thought she did a nice job as the teacher, trying to help the kid as much as she can. Like I said, Joe Piscopo is just a lot of fun, where he's goofy, he's over the top. When they try to, him and the dad try to get for karate practice in the first place, Joe Piscopo's looking at the kid with the asthma and going, "Could you wheeze a little quieter, kid?" Oh, Chuck Norris. You know, he doesn't compete anymore because he knows I'm there and I will kick his ass. Just Joe Piscopo is a lot of fun. For those that don't know, he was a guy who was on Saturday Night Live, worked a lot with Eddie Murphy on there. He was also in this film called Dead Heat with Treat Williams, which is fun. The ending goes a bit off the rails, but I thought it was a fun enough movie. Horror comedy with zombies, but it's a buddy cop film. But like I said, there are points where I could see myself as the Jonathan Brandis character, and I think a lot of people could too, and they can relate to that stuff. Like I said, not that far. Like thinking that guy's going to kill me with a sword and I'm putting my hands up. But that's a little bit more serious. That's where you need like a psychiatrist or something, or psychologist. But and Mako, I always liked him in movies. Like I said, ever since I saw him in the Conan films and other stuff. The Perfect Weapon with Jess Speakman. He plays Jess Speakman's buddy, who gets killed off, and then Speakman wants to find out who killed him. And it becomes a bit of a revenge movie. He also gets to be a bit playful. Like there's these biker bullies in a restaurant, how he's playful and beating them up, but making it look like an accident and doing all this other stuff. I do like that they pick the weapon from the train as nunchucks, and when he tries it first, he's making the easy mistakes that could get you easily hit in the groin or the head. That almost happened to me because I have nunchucks and I didn't train with them. I have them still. I just never found anyone to train me in them. But I would try a little bit and try to be careful because you could easily do that. Like I said, the dad character, Bull Bridges does fine, but there's not a whole lot with him in it other than a few scenes with Julie Nixon-Soul's character. It has a feeling of a Karate Kid, but at the same time they did their own thing instead of being a carbon copy. Like there is a karate championship, but it's not like the Karate Kid, where the typical route would be Jonathan Brandis having a one-on-one fight with the bully. I'm surprised they didn't do that, even though it would be maybe too much like Karate Kid, but I'm surprised they did not do that. Instead, there's other elements of these karate championships. There's how good you are displaying your weapons, breaking the bricks, and that's the final competition, is him breaking the bricks. Chuck Norris does have a fight with Joe Piscopo, which is, I would say, the funniest part of the movie, with how Piscopo acts and he's nagging and trying to get Chuck Norris to beat him up. There's a point that he gets hit, and just the over-the-top, uh-oh, and he just hit, and then they have I guess they put a camera on him, and they found a way where they turned him. That's one interview they should have gotten on that Joe Piscopo. Like if they can't get Chuck Norris, at least get Joe Piscopo. But I don't even know what Joe Piscopo's doing nowadays. So, but yeah, I know a lot of people feel, oh, this is the ego boost for Chuck Norris because the kid idolizes him so much and he comes in to help. But there's a lot of people, a lot of kids who kind of felt the same way about Chuck. And weirdly enough, this is a year before Last Action Hero. And Last Action Hero was another movie about a kid who idolizes an action star, or in this case the character Jack Slater, and then team up. Now, I would say I like Last Action Hero more than this. There's just a lot more to Last Action Hero, action-wise, scope-wise, etc. I think that's actually a really funny, underrated movie. But like I said, this had enough heart to it. I thought it had a pretty good cast. The action scenes were fun. I mean, it's not up to some of the other Chuck Norris movies, like Invasion USA or stuff, but like I say, it doesn't have as much of the emotional connection for me as the first two Karate Kid films, but I thought for a kid's film, it had more to me than Surf Ninjas or Three Ninjas, so I put Sidekicks above those. I like some of the dialogue Chuck is given. Hey, it's good to be nervous. It loosens you up. And the spoiler alert, I thought the ending was kind of weird. Spoilers. Because, Chuck Norris becomes part of the team. First off, I don't know how they tied up. There might have been other events. Because Julie Nixon Soul lost Lady Kata, but then Jonathan Landis won with breaking the bricks. He won with the weapon display. Chuck won in fighting. Joe Piscopo. So, but yet it said that both teams were tied until the final bit. So there might have been other stuff that we didn't get to see that made them tied up. So it seemed like, well, Chuck Norris' team is winning, but just Mako won his bit. Jonathan Brandis won his bit. Chuck Norris won his bit. But I don't know. I guess there was other things the other team won that we didn't see. Or I just completely missed because I was blanking out. I don't know. But that's stuff. It's the other bit where at the very end, first off, Jonathan Brandis is talking to Chuck Norris. But is he talking to the daydream Chuck that he always had? Because he gets up, he turns, and then Chuck disappears. So I guess maybe that's to invoke that he's not going to daydream about the guy anymore. I can get that, but at the same time I thought it would have been much more worthwhile if he had a conversation with the actual Chuck Norris. I think that one last conversation between those two, or at least a final goodbye, I think would have been a nice bit of business. Also, then he walks off with his dad, Bo Bridges, and Julie Nixon Soul, and I'm like, where's Mako? Where's Mako? Like, he's the guy that trained Jonathan Brandis. He's the guy who got Brandis to pump up to win and breaking the bricks that's on fire. Why is Mako? Shouldn't it be all four of them and not just the three of them? Like, why is Mako? Like, to not have Mako in that last scene, I thought felt a bit off. And then, Jonathan Brandis say goodbye to the ghost or to his daydream. I think it would have worked better if maybe he's talking to Chuck, who looks one way, then he sees his daydream Chuck. Then he says goodbye to the real Chuck. Turns, the fake Chuck is gone, and then he walks away. Like, maybe that would have worked better. I didn't have the four of them. Brandis, his dad, Julia, and Mako. Like, again, so the ending was a bit weird. But those are little nitpicks. At times, some people might not like the 90s goofiness, like some of when the two have shotguns and Joe Pistol like has all this chemical. They don't do all this stuff, and it'd be very big and broad. Some people may be a bit off kilter with Joe Pistol's over the top performance. Again, if you're going for Karate Kid, it's a bit goofier than that, but it's fun. I also like the score by Alan Silvestri. I thought Alan Silvestri did a nice job on the score, who of course worked on the Chuck Norris film The Delta Force. And I think he used some of the same instruments in doing this. I do like, you hear it in the trailer, the Sidekicks, the music. That's the music I like the most. I like that bit of the music. That's my favorite part. I did a bad job saying it. But yeah, I would say if you like these kind of 90s, maybe a bit goofy type of family films, if you like movies that are reminiscent of The Karate Kid, if you're a fan of Chuck Norris, it's definitely a fun bit worth a look. I'm glad it's finally getting a physical release in the US. Because like I said, this DVD was only overseas, but I'm glad it's getting a release. Gray has Vinegar Syndrome, so you gotta pay an arm and a leg, but if you want it, it's there. I do hope other action movies get the release. Just Beepin' stuff like Deadly Outbreak and Street Night. Hellbound with Chuck Norris is not on Blu-ray. It's on, I think the out of print. I don't know if it's out of print, but it was on that 3-pack DVD. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I hope gets it, but who knows? With that said, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys later.